Thank you for coming. So this is our event, Alumni Talk with Andrea Mays.
I kind of had like 18 different majors. I'm one of those people who had like 1,000 majors. So before I went to Morgan, in high school, I was a photographer. So I was like, I really think that I want to be a photographer and I want to go to school for that. And then I remember talking to a lot of my family and they were kind of like, photography really isn't like a career that you can't make that into a career. So it kind of discouraged me. So when I started Morgan, I started off as a computer science major, which literally was like a 180 of what I wanted to do. And I remember being a computer science major for about a semester. And then I was just like, I really like communications and I still kind of really like photography. So I tried to attempt to go into fine arts. But as I was looking at the curriculum, I personally didn't think that it was heavy enough for what I wanted to do. So I started looking into the communications department because for me, communications, I just thought of it as like PR. I didn't really think too much into it. And then I know that it's like what multi-purpose now or something like that.
Yeah.
I was at Morgan. It was called Broadcast and Integrated Media, with a concentration in TV and film. So I found that, and I was like, I knew I didn't want to like act or anything, but I knew I wanted to be behind the scenes, and I was like, I really think that I might want to direct or be a camera operator. So I did that major, and that's kind of how I started. I was in so many different organizations at Morgan. I was in SGA all 4 years, on the executive boards. I was in NCNW. I was on their e-board for NCNW. I was a peer educator. I literally was all the majors that you could be. I think I was in a communications group, because I definitely think that um, college is college is what you make of it always. And I feel as though joining organizations really strengthens your time at Morgan. And I feel like it being in so many organizations helped me navigate and work hard while I was there. So I had an amazing time at Morgan, and I was involved in pretty much anything you could be involved in. Post production kind of chose me. So right out of college, my first job in my career was at an organization in DC called the Human Rights Campaign, and it is the largest LGBTQ org in the nation, I think. And I started off there as a video producer because I knew that I wanted to do behind the scenes things. So there, as a video producer, I did like the prep before the shoot. I actually recorded the shoot and I did the editing. So I kind of stuck my toe into so many different things there. And I decided that as much as I love the Human Rights Campaign, I knew that I wanted to work in TV or film or film. So I kind of just quit my job last, I want to say, I think I quit it like last August. And I was just like, I'm just going to move to LA and we're just going to see what happens. And so I moved to LA and I was applying to different jobs. Me back for an interview and it was for post production. And I had editing experience. So I kind of just wanted to see what it was like. And I really do like post production. I'm more so geared towards show running and writing. So that's why I say I kind of fell into post production. I love writing like sci-fi. So I don't know if any of you here have watched like Lovecraft Country. Like that's my jam. Like I want to like make like a Lovecraft mixed with like a Black Mirror. Like that's like my little realm. But I also really like dramedies like Atlanta. So that's kind of my niche. That's where all
Oh yeah.
black, hella black is my niche. I want to say that what a lot of people don't understand is even if you don't know what networking is, you're already doing it. So my first experience with networking was just going to college and not even just realizing like the little things of just like when I was in SGA and someone's asking like, do you all know a good communications director? And then you kind of think about like that one person in your class that is really good at communications and you're kind of like you recommend them. So I think that even if you don't call it networking, we all kind of network in a sense. But I also think right now is like a great time to have networking events. Since the pandemic started, I've been in a networking panel probably once a week or once every 2 weeks. And it doesn't have to be as like, some of them are just fun. I had a Halloween one and we all kind of just dressed up and got on Zoom and just kind of talked about our favorite horror movies. It doesn't have to always be like, what can you do for me? What do you do? So I think that,
So
yeah,
cool.
I think that don't put so much weight on networking, because I think it should be genuine, because I've networked with a lot of people, and the people that I remember the most are like the people who talk like the Halloween. I remember those people like, oh my God, you're the one who was just talking about Jaws, like, and that's the person I remember. Then I'll be like, oh, you also um said that you want to do PA. So when I think about it, I'll be like, oh, the person that really liked Jaws, she also wanted to be a PA. And I'll reach out to that person. Like, that's how I recommend people. But also really tap into HBCUs. A lot of the opportunities that I have gotten are from people that I knew from HBCUs. It's really like, an HBCU culture is really a family. So the people that are around you, I still to this day recommend people that I went to Morgan with, and they recommend me. And so I think that those genuine relationships, it doesn't have to be like so stern, just those genuine relationships you make, or the genuine friendships you make, are good for networking. But I do think that those panels are very useful, because it kind of, we had like a lot of breakout rooms, so it puts you in rooms with people that you don't know, so you can like, yeah, my tip would just be, if you're doing a networking, definitely have a moment. What I do, because I have networking panels, what I do is I keep it lightweight, and one of the last questions I ask is, what can you do for me and what can I do for you? So we'll have like a light conversation for about 10 minutes, and then I'll leave, and then the last question, what can I do for you? I'm a writer. I'm really good at script feedback. I'm really good at revisions. And then what I need somebody who is really good at with pitches. So then that's how we kind of get our networking in. And then later on, we can just be like, oh, I really enjoyed us talking about Lovecraft Country for 10 minutes. But I also remembered that you needed help with pitch decks. Is there a show that you want to send me that I can help you with? Like, it can be something as simple as that. So if you want to end up in a writer's room, I would say create your own. Like, and I've created my own writer's room. I think that that shows a lot of initiative, especially when you're trying to go out and get a job as a writer's PA. So I would maybe like get some friends, get some people here. Even you all can have like a writer's room within this group. And I would just start one, and I would start working on a show and kind of have those samples ready. And then I don't know if you want to stay in whatever state that you're in now, or if you have ambitions on moving to other places. But I would definitely start applying to those places, even if you aren't there, because during this time, a lot of writers' rooms are on Zoom. And getting into a writer's room is kind of one of the hardest jobs, unfortunately, because it's kind of who you know.
Right.
But that's why I say create your own spaces, because then you create your own space, and then you can showcase how you've navigated your own writer's room. You can just showcase how you know how to do whiteboarding and storyboarding for certain rooms. You can have that already down packed. And I would just start applying now. I would definitely look into video assistant jobs too, because you said that you like creative development. Um, when I started off at the Human Rights Campaign, I was a video assistant, and that was good for me because I got to actually be a part of the creative development for the films or the short videos that I was making. So I got to create it myself. So I kind of had that in the back burner as well. So I would definitely I would create a writer's room, maybe work on a pilot with a team, and then I would look into video assistant jobs, because that could help you as well.
Awesome.
Definitely a challenge, because I lived on the East Coast all my life. I'm from DC. I've lived in PG. I went to school in Baltimore, and I also went to Hampton as well. So I went to school in Virginia as well. So my whole life was East Coast. So moving to, I literally packed up my car and just drove to LA in 4 days, and it was such a culture shock, because I'm just so used to an abundance of Black people, and I just prematurely, I just thought that LA was going to be like an insecure episode. Like I just thought I was going to walk outside and just see like 100 black people and we was just going to all love each other and that's how it was going to be. But that's not how it ended up being. So it was definitely a culture shock and it was hard. I think a big thing, and I always think about this. I keep this in the back of my mind is when Issa Rae was like network across. So I went there not really, the only people that I knew when I moved to LA were people from Morgan. And that's why I say networking is so important, because it was one girl who just literally lived next to me and lived in the room or the apartment next to me in Morgan View, who I really didn't know like that, but she lived here and I needed a place to stay. And she was like, and I stayed with her for like 2 months. And it was all off the strength of you went to Morgan, I went to Morgan, we're family. So that's why I say like even when you don't realize you're networking, you're always networking. But it was definitely a journey. I was thankful enough to get my job at Lionsgate a month into me moving, which is not normal. It usually takes people a really long time. So I was very thankful for that. Um, One thing that's so weird, I don't like the food here. And so I get crabs, like blue crab shipped here, like from
Oh
Maryland.
wow.
But other than that, I really like it. The weather is awesome. It takes a while to find your tribe, like I was saying. But I've been building my tribe and meeting a lot of people. And Black LA is very small, so it's kind of like once you know one person, you kind of know everybody else. But it's just about keeping yourself grounded and hustling and like really working because LA moves very quickly. It moves way quicker. I thought DC moved quick, but it moves way quicker, and you will get left if you don't consistently work here. And there's always someone that wants your job. So it's kind of like you have to constantly just, be on your grind. I don't think you have to be in LA. So it's kind of weird because right now this pandemic has shown that you can be anywhere in the world and get things done, because we had to. So when it comes to acting, people are doing their like acting auditions on Zoom. There's Zoom writers' rooms. Atlanta is becoming a really big hub, especially with Tyler Perry creating the whole studio that he created. North Carolina is starting to become like a hub as well. So I don't
I heard that.
necessarily think that you have to be in LA, but I think that it'll be better to be in LA. I know before I got my job, I was in DC applying to jobs in LA, like I lived there, and I like used my homegirl's address and I just acted like I lived there. And I was flying from DC, like I would get a job interview and they'd be like, can you come in tomorrow? And I was booking flights that night and like flying to LA. And so it kind of just like you'll work as hard as you want to work if you really want something. You know what I mean? But I don't think that it's a necessity to be here, but it doesn't hurt because when things start to open back up, I can't honestly, I don't really know if we're gonna continue with the Zooms or if you're gonna have to start doing, being in person again. So I don't right now think it's a necessity. So that is a really big question that I'm also still struggling with. It kind of depends. So in the beginning of the quarantine, I had no, I had no like desire to write. I couldn't write. There was so much going on, and everything was so heavy with me, and I couldn't write. Um, um, so I personally, I have to take breaks. I think that that's normal to have to take breaks. I also have really bad imposter syndrome, which kind of makes it hard for me to write sometimes. But things that have helped me, one is that writer's room that I have. Sometimes I just need to talk things out. It really, really helps me navigate through my writer's block. Also, a thing that is really super helpful for me is I don't know if you all write scripts, but I kind of like to leave. This is like one of the most helpful tips that I have. I like to leave in the middle of a scene. So if I'm writing a scene or an act, if I leave in the middle and come back, I already know how I want it to end so I can jump back into it, as opposed to when I finish a scene and I leave and then I have to come back and start the beginning of another one, I'll start to have that block. So I tend to leave a lot of my writing prompts in the middle because that really helps me bounce back into it when I want to come back. Um, so that is, I think, the biggest tip that I have. Other than that, it's okay to sometimes just not write. I also watch a lot of shows that help me kind of get back into the mix. I call it research, but that also helps me as well. And also, one last thing is you don't have to finish everything you start. If you kind of just create a pattern, like if you're like every day at 7 a.m., I want to write for 20 minutes, that helps. That helps with your writer's block as well. So like if you pick a time and you consistently use that time, that's helpful as well. I feel like I personally don't, but I know people who do. I know at least in my field that I'm sorry, my thing. I know in my field, they're really, especially when it comes to TV shows, you're more likely to get picked up, or people are more likely to read your content if you follow the rules. So breaking the rules is kind of something for a seasoned writer. So Shonda Rhimes can break every rule in the book when she creates an episode, but a newer writer cannot. So I would kind of be mindful. There's nothing wrong with doing it, but I would be mindful that people are less likely to read your content if it doesn't go in the format that um, is kind of industry standard. Personally, like it can come from anything. So sometimes I'll have an idea already and I'll outline it from that idea. Maybe what he's saying, sometimes I'll hear a song lyric and it'll create a whole entire like show for me. um but I think your outline can be whatever you want it to be. But I think that once you come to writing the script, you should stay focused on a specific format, that's kind of industry standard. But I think that if it comes to the outline, you can express yourself however best you can get out your ideas. Um, I I have never, in my, at least when it comes to entertainment, I, unless you are going in to be like a director of a TV show, if it's entry level, usually they don't require too much of an education. I will say that I've always been the only Black person or the only Black woman in all of my jobs, and the only one that went to an HBCU. So I I will say, but I will say that bachelor's degrees are now kind of on applications as not a requirement. So I don't really think that there's so much of an education requirement, or even I would say skill set. If it's an editor, they might ask for a reel. But if it's entry level, most of the time it's just like good communication, admin skills. I haven't really seen them requiring too much of a person on an entry level position. That is a good question. I will say like groups like this helps. Even you talking about you having a networking panel next week, that helps. Public speaking and maybe interview panels or interview rooms is are helpful. But I will also say look at a big thing for me that I think is helpful, or a big thing that I think will be helpful for you all now, is to kind of keep track of the different COVID changes that are in the industry if you all want to be in the industry, um, and kind of get yourself make yourself knowledgeable. So now one of the positions that are now on set is like a COVID PA. So maybe if you want to be on set, start to get accredited in COVID procedures so that when it's time for you to kind of apply for these positions, you can get your foot in the door by being like a COVID consultant or like a COVID PA. And all they really do is kind of schedule when everyone gets tested and make sure that things are sanitized, but it's a way to get in the door. So I think that being knowledgeable of the changes that are happening in the career due to COVID and making yourself accessible to know how to adapt to it is a really good way to get into the field. Um, but also having those networking panels and maybe even creating networking panels with other HBCUs. So maybe like UMES or Bowie or Howard, creating like network panels so you can get to know those people and you can kind of network across with not just people at Morgan. I see people coming from all different ages. I think Ava DuVernay, I think she started in her 30s and it wasn't her primary career. I see a lot of people who have, I know engineers, like industrial engineers that went into film. I don't think that it matters where you start, but I also think that you bring a unique skill set that a lot of people might not have. So you're coming from finance. There are things that you can bring into the film. Budgeting is a huge thing in production, like budgeting, staying on budget, and a lot of people don't have that skill set. So you coming in, if you want to transition into film, you coming in with that finance background will only make you look better um, on productions or on sets or trying to apply for jobs. So I've definitely seen people start in like their 40s. And I've seen people being in like completely different majors and going into film. So I definitely think that it's possible. And it might be more beneficial than a person that started off as a film major. Really hectic days every single day. So my day to day would be on the studio side, would be coming into work and um, making sure we got the call sheet. If sometimes my boss or someone would need to go to New York to be actually on set. So kind of coordinating that, making sure that the show ended on time or the set day ended on time. We got the footage. We looked at the footage. So a lot of my job in post production is to kind of look at the dailies. So the dailies are the clips that you record that day. So you get dailies every day of shooting at the end of the day. So it'll be like looking at the dailies, making sure like nothing's off, the lighting's right, all of that. And then the editors would go in. So the editors they have an editor's cut, a director's cut, a producer's cut, and then it goes to the studio, which is well, for Power, the studio and the network are the same people, which is Stars. And then we give notes. So we'll look at that episode, give the notes that we give, and then they'll come back and make the changes and kind of do the back and forth. So a lot of my day is coordinating, make sure the set went okay, and then watching clips for notes and sending back those notes. Also, I can't remember who was talking about finance, but making sure that we stay on finance. So like at the end of the day, we get kind of like a cost report, and you can check in to make sure like, okay, we are still on cost, or we have overages at this point. Where were the overages at? How can who's going to pay for these overages? So if it's a show, so Dear White People is another show that I'm working on now. The network is Netflix, but the studio is Lionsgate. So let's say there's an overage of like $100,000. Is Lionsgate paying for that? Is Netflix paying for that? Are we cutting it in half? So kind of a big part of my day is just watching a lot of cuts, giving a lot of notes, and making sure we stay on budget. And it hasn't really changed too much since COVID, but the only difference is I just have a lot more meetings on Zoom. And it's a lot less time. We've added a new COVID component. So now making sure that everyone's been tested and seeing if we got a positive test, if it's a false positive, retesting people. If it's too many positives, then we got to shut down the set, and now creating a new schedule because now we can't go into, there's one show that got shut down because of some positive cases, and now we're no longer on schedule. You're no longer on schedule. Now you have a lot of overages. Now what are we going to do with these overages? Who's paying for it? So a lot of my COVID time now is trying to figure out how to reallocate or figure out how to get things filmed um, in this new COVID time. It's being the only Black woman on the TV department. That's the biggest challenge. And I'll say that that's the biggest challenge because what I've noticed when I always say this all the time, we're required to, as Black people, we're always required to watch your friends, to watch the offices, but you're never required to watch our insecures, to watch our fresh princes. It was hard for me to find a space there because I think people were very scared to say the wrong thing to me. So a lot of people didn't want to talk to me. So I kind of had to always assert myself into conversations. I had to create spaces for myself. I had to join groups and like be like on the e-board. So I'm the e-board for a women empowerment group that we have at work. But I feel like it wasn't easy for me. I saw a white girl that started probably 2 months or 3 months after me, and people were asking her out to lunch, and they wanted to like get to know her, but I didn't get that same benefit because I feel like people were kind of scared that they would say the wrong thing, so they just decided not to say anything. So that was definitely like a big hurdle and probably like the hardest thing that I had to maneuver through. And I'm still kind of maneuvering through it now because now that we're working from Zoom, I can't go to the kitchen and start talking to people. Now I kind of have to make it like I have to take it upon myself to message people. So
That's
that's
awesome.
yeah, that's exactly why I we need more people in the industry. And I've been working on creating internships at paid internships at Lionsgate to bring in more HBCU students because I think it's so hard for us. I feel like I got very lucky getting in when I got in, but it's really hard for people to Black people especially to like get that foot in the door. So I'm just trying to open the door up a little bit more so more of us can get in there and then not be so awkward in the workplace. You know what? I think I get the most jobs on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is like a treasure. I don't know if you all have LinkedIn, but I think that's where I got the majority of my jobs. Do not sleep on LinkedIn. Um, because all of your information is already there. It's kind of easier for them. Indeed is good too, but definitely look into LinkedIn um, to look into jobs over there because I think that that's probably the best. The Human Rights Campaign, I'm pretty sure I got it through LinkedIn, and I think Lionsgate was through LinkedIn as well, if I'm not mistaken. And I also had applied to so the job when I was saying I lived in DC, but I had got an interview. It was for MGM Studios, and that was through LinkedIn as well. So I would definitely utilize that. Create your profile, endorse. You can endorse skills, so do that for your friends. Get your profile like fully completed. I would say, I think a big thing for me is just to kind of be open to all experiences and be open to all people. When I came out of Morgan, I spent a lot of time being so upset that it wasn't enough of us that I feel like I wasn't taking advantage of the opportunities that I was getting. So I would say be open to more people, be open to more experiences. Um, and it kind of sucks to say sometimes you kind of have to adapt and code switch a lot. I think a lot of my day is code switching. Um, but just knowing that it's going to get you to the place that you want to get to, but still kind of be true to yourself. And I know that sounds weird to be like code switch, but also be true to yourself. I don't fake how I feel. I kind of just approach it in a different way. So I kind of, like I was saying, I say what I want to say, but I don't really be like, this is how it should go. Um, so I think that would be my advice. But yeah, definitely just be open to all experiences and be opening to know people, and also kind of stay very up to date. I don't know if you all know what the Hollywood Reporter is and Deadline. Those are like the trades, and that's what everyone reads every morning. That was a big thing that I needed to know. You need to read Hollywood Reporter and Deadline every morning. You need to stay up to date with who's getting overall deals, what shows are being canceled, what pilots are being filmed, COVID updates. You need to stay updated with those. I would stay up to date with as many shows or films or whatever niche that you're in that you want to do. Stay up to date with those as well. That's also a good way. If you stay up to date, one person was talking about writing. If you stay up to date with those, you can see when the new season is starting and you can kind of see what's needed. So if you really watch Lovecraft and you stay up to date with Lovecraft, sorry, you say I love Lovecraft, so I'll use that example a lot. You stay up to date with it, you see that they're going to film in November 2021. That means that they're going to have to start staffing around June or July. So you being up to date with that, you can start to look into those jobs to like be a PA or writer's assistant. So stay up to date with the things that interest you as well as the trades, which are Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, and stuff like that. I think my favorite writer right now is Michaela Cole. She did Chewing Gum. It was on
Uh,
Netflix. She's a British writer.
yes,
She
I look
also just did I May Destroy You. That's on HBO Max. I think that she's a genius. I like adore her. I keep up with her writing a lot. Also, a big thing that I do is if I really like a show or if I really like the pilot or the first episode of a show, I'll go and find the script online and read it. I think that if you want to be a writer in film or TV, you should be reading at least one script a day of something that interests you, but also something that you super like really, really, really hate. So you can kind of read to see what you hate and what you don't want to do, as well as something that you really love. So you can kind of see their technique and not really copy it, but it's a good reference point. But I think that you should be reading at least one script a day, either reading a script or working on a script at least sometime once a day. So I sleep. I don't know if that's a thing, but I like to sleep. But I just took up skating because I need a hobby that's so far out of entertainment. So my hobby is skating. So I started skating. I don't know how to skate, y'all, but I've been doing that. But also, how do I maintain? So I have depression. I was diagnosed with depression, I think when I was in 11th grade. And I actually didn't really know the intensity of it until I got to Morgan. Because I remember when I was in 11th grade and my doctor told me, I was just like, I don't know what this means. Then I got to Morgan and then it just blew up. I think my freshman year. So now I'm at the point where I understand my triggers, but I understand that, but it's really hard for me. I know someone asked about writer's block. That's a reason why I have such I have really bad writer's block, because I have depression and sometimes I just can't. There are days where I just cannot get up. But a big thing for me is I sit in those emotions. I know a lot of people, like, they're depressed and they just want to get up and out. Sometimes I sit in those emotions because I need to. So because of, like, now at this age, I understand how to navigate that. Yeah, I don't make myself bad for whichever way I go. So if Monday I want to skate and Tuesday I want to sleep, I don't make myself feel bad. And I think that's a big thing, especially during this time with social media. You feel like you see so many people doing so many things and you feel like you're behind and you're not doing it. And it adds on to imposter syndrome. Like, I feel like you should just sit in your emotion, whatever that emotion is. So if I have to sleep the day on Tuesday in order to be productive on Wednesday, I'm gonna do that. And I'm not gonna feel bad. I'm not gonna feel like, oh damn, I didn't write my script today, or I didn't do this and that, or I didn't go, like, even networking panels. Like, sometimes I just don't want to talk to people, and that's okay. And I had to accept that. So I'm very in tune with my emotions, and I think that that's a big thing to help navigate, especially through the industry that I'm in.
Okay, thank you for that response, and thank you for doing this. It was really amazing. So many topics was covered, and I hope everyone got what they wanted out of it.
Hey, Andrea, thank you. This is the director of the program, Keith Mellon.
Hi.
I appreciate your time, your energy. It's beautiful. Thank you, sister. Right on.
Hey, nice to meet you. No problem.